Schediger to introduce our speaker.
I get to follow that. Thanks. Well, it's actually exciting to follow that because we have a really awesome speaker today. Most of you probably know her. A whole parade of people have been coming up to say hi, give her things. Nobody gave me anything, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and introduce you anyways, Bea. I met Bea Wolper probably 20-some years ago as she and her husband, Dick Evans, who many of you know, were helping to start the Family Business Center of Central Ohio. Being a family business, we were invited to participate, have been ever since. What I have loved about Bea over all those years is how she is direct and to the point. So allow me to introduce her in a direct and to the point way. She has practiced law for more than 32 years with an emphasis on family-owned businesses and women business owners, estate planning and wealth transfer, and also oil and gas law. In particular, her practice has included an emphasis on succession planning and preservation of wealth, including the implications of philanthropic giving. Bea has been elected as a delegate to the White House Conference on Small Business, and she was also named a YMCA Woman of Achievement. That's YWCA, isn't it? Yeah, the new website said YMCA. Bea, let's talk about that. She was the founder and president of the Women's Business Board and was named one of the 100 most powerful people in Central Ohio. Pretty cool, huh? She has many other accomplishments, but she has a brand new one that is about to happen. You a little nervous? A little nervous, okay. Well, each year, the International Women's Forum celebrates and recognizes the accomplishments of trailblazing women leaders who are inducted into the International Hall of Fame and honored with the Women Who Make a Difference Award. Former honorees of this International Hall of Fame include global women leaders such as Maya Angelou, Kim Campbell, who is the former Canadian Prime Minister, Gloria Estefan, Ella Fitzgerald, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Katharine Graham, who's the chairman of the Washington Post, Audrey Hepburn, Billie Jean King, Rosa Parks, Margaret Thatcher, Barbara Walters, and many others. That's pretty impressive company. The International Women's Forum advances leadership across careers, cultures, and continents. And next Friday, October 18th, our own Bea Wolper, before an audience of more than 1,300 leaders in Vancouver, the IWF will present the Women Who Make a Difference Award at its International Hall of Fame to Bea Wolper. She also is going to be receiving an honorary degree from the Ohio Dominican University in December at ODU's 100th anniversary. Is it a doctorate degree? Honorary doctorate degree. I think I left that word out. So please help me welcome this extremely accomplished lady, Bea Wolper, to Columbus Rotary.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here, and I appreciate it. One of the things that I have spent a lot of time doing is focusing on the succession of family business. And we thought that we'd talk a little bit about that today, especially what makes it work and sometimes what makes it not work. So the first question is, well, what's a family business? And a family business can be husband and wife in business together, the son who got the business from grandpa, skipped a generation, the daughter who got it from mom, any combination of those, siblings working together, cousins working together, a lone family member who's the last, but it has been passed down through generations and trying to figure out what to do next. but really anything, and hopefully for profit. These are family businesses that are for profit. We'll get back to that in a minute. When Dick and I wrote our book years ago, we came up with a phrase, family business, as one word, because in our experience, there's often no space between what is family and what is business. The huge overlap occurs all the time. I can see some people in the audience, yeah, that's right, that's what happens. So a goal would be to have your family business succeed. I mean, that is the goal. And the problem is in family businesses, sometimes equal is not fair, and fair means that it's not equal. But to maintain the family business as a going concern is a challenge, because by the time you get to the 4th generation, there's only 3% that make it. A recent study also says that family business owners only have wills 50% of the time, and they leave the other 50% to chance. It's an amazing statistic now, and we know. So what do you say about family business that is different than other businesses? Well, we're going to talk about that, because I like to say it's like chess or checkers. It's the same board, whether you're playing chess or you're playing checkers. But in checkers, for many years, estate planners and people who are handling your closely held businesses have only one goal in mind, and that is to avoid tax, which now is not as big an issue as it was before, but that is the goal. You try to do one thing and one thing only. In family business, it's more like chess. You make one little move with a pawn, and all of a sudden you're in trouble over there with the knight. And you make one move with the knight, and all of a sudden you have a problem over there. And it continues, because no matter what you do in a family business, there are other aspects of it. So there are two sides of family business succession planning, and the hard side, all of the lawyers and accountants that are sitting in here today already know it, and they're really good at it, and I'm not going to spend time at it, because those things you all need, and you need it, and you need the trusts, and you need ILITs, and you need insurance, and you may need a charitable remainder trust, and you may need all of these wonderful things that we can do, which are wonderful and are still needed, and buy-sell agreements, and advisory boards, and limited liability companies. And the formation of those are that hard side of any business that people can do. Now with family business, it's a little different, because there's a soft side. And a lot of times people don't really like to talk about the soft side because it's icky. Because you have people who don't like each other because they love each other too much. And so the first thing is, what's fair? What's fair in a family business? What should I do? I have 4 children. One of them is in the business. It's not fair to give my business to that one child, so I'm going to divide it in 4th. And all of a sudden the other 3 vote out the one who's been running the company, and the family business fails. So what's fair becomes a long discussion with the founders of, what do I do and how do I take care of my other children? And then it goes right into what the goals are of the individual and the family. What are the wants and the needs of the founder? What does the founder need? Well, then all of a sudden you're talking about, well, what are the wants and needs of the next generation? What do they need? You know, a little recognition perhaps, a little money would be nice. So then you have to communicate. Oh, that terrible word, communication. Part of the thing about the communication that people don't like are what we call the undiscussables. It's Uncle Charlie who has perhaps a little bit of a drinking problem, but you're still paying him. It's the child who has a gambling problem, but mommy really wants to give the stock equally to both children. What do you do? How do you communicate that? How do you transition to the next one? Conflict management comes into play here, and it comes into play, there's another one that says sibling rivalry. The amazing thing is when you are lucky, and you have siblings that work together and have communicated, and there are some prime examples here in the room, thank you very much, Converse, that works. But unfortunately, I also deal with siblings who do not communicate, and at the age of 63 and 58, sat across from me at a table and said, "You never let me play with your trucks growing up." To which you want to say, "Get over it." Compensation, another key issue in family business. You probably will not be surprised that the brother who owns an equal share of a business as the other two brothers believes he should have equal compensation because daddy left it a third, a third, a third. The fact that one brother never went to college and happened to be in charge of, we call it facilities. It's a nice way of saying, right, they take care of the toilets. And the other one, who's a CPA, and the other one who's in charge of sales, make more money. Huge arguments. Huge arguments. The self-esteem issue is always a challenge. There are issues nowadays that I'm not quite sure whether it's our own fault for those of us who are of a certain age, that we wanted to make sure that our children were always going to be better off than we are. And so we made sure that everything would be a little bit easier for them. But unfortunately, we also do things like, if you're playing ball, everybody gets an award. There are no losers. Everybody wins. If you show up, you get an award. So for those of you who can't read this because it's small, it is what I consider a really good Dilbert cartoon, which has to do with, the first slide says, "We're out of time and we accomplished absolutely nothing, thanks to your non-stop talking." Well, when do I get my trophy for participation? Someone was raised with too much self-esteem. Watch me walk. It leads to an issue, unfortunately, kidding aside, that has to do with related from what I call blood employment. And that is, in family business, if you have a blood relation, then you're going to hire them. Now, for family businesses, if you have a blood relation, if there's a position and the person is qualified and they can do the work, you should hire them. Because obviously you want to keep it in the family if you can. But if the family is in business to hire relatives rather than making a profit, it will fail. And there are family businesses who hire family members because they are family members, and then they don't show up on time. They take, let's see, the weekday off to go play golf or watch golf and not go to work. And what does that say to the other employees? Are they getting the same pay for the same job, but the blood relative doesn't have to show up because they're a blood relative? The problem with that is also leads to entitlement issues, which is why family businesses fail more than any other reason. It's the bane of family business. It's the one that says, I am entitled to, and then you fill in the blanks. I'm entitled to more money, the stock, more vacations, time off, whatever it is. I'm entitled because I happen to be your son, your daughter, your cousin, or whatever. Suspiciousness is always an interesting thing that I see. Again, if you can't read this, the lovely cartoon says, as the husband comes home, "Well, your brother's wife came by today in the new company Mercedes." The problem with that is I see it all the time. I wish I didn't. It's pillow talk. It's the siblings get along okay. Unfortunately, their spouses are whispering in their ears things like this that causes problems, and that's why you have to get back to the communication. Motivation, you have to be motivated. I'm not concerned about that. You know, if you could eliminate the entitlement, they're going to be motivated because they're going to want to make money. Now we're switching now to some of the founder issues. Guilt. Founder's guilt. Founder's guilt, oh, I picked one over another. Oh, I don't know who to pick. If I pick one, the other one won't love me as much. I mean, you have to go through these wonderful, terrible discussions and say, yes, they will. Really, they will. It's okay. Do you want the family business to succeed, or do you not want it to succeed? And then there's traditions. Speaking as a woman, the tradition that the oldest male should always be the one that gets the stock is one that I find a problem with. Big surprise. So I did love this slide that says just because you're always done it that way doesn't mean it was not incredibly stupid. You know, subtle, as Mike said. I like being subtle, right? I can't tell you how many times in family businesses the oldest male is the one that is naturally picked. And it still happens today, and there's not too much you can do about it except go back to communication, talk about it, and figure things out. The influence that people have is always incredibly important. It's not just the in-laws that influence you. I do have to say that if the majority of all family businesses in Ohio are still owned and operated, or at least started by males, it is the CEO that has the most influence, the chief emotional officer, and that's the mom. And the woman who is at the head of the triangle with the dad and the kids, when the kids have a problem with the dad, they go to the mom. I can assure you the mom's going to have influence. And so I'm beating this dead horse, but it gets back to communication and figuring out ways of solving that works. The desire for harmony also is very strong with the CEO. And again, the chief emotional officer. I just want everyone to get along. Why can't you just get along? And quite frankly, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. Then for the founders, and I know that I have a, for the founders, procrastination is huge. Procrastination about, I will do that tomorrow. I'm going to think about that. I'll call you tomorrow. I'm really too busy running my business right now to think about this. I'll get that, at Scarlet, I'll get it tomorrow. I'm too busy right now. But over 27% of family businesses, the founder dies an unexpected death and leaves the business without a business plan. And the procrastination is, dare I say, deadly. Sorry about that. Selective amnesia. Oh, was I going to give it to you? No, I'm going to give it to your brother. I didn't mean that. I forgot. I told you that. Inability to choose. The biggest thing I see right now, skipping to I'll do the cartoon and then I'll come back, because I love this, because I'm a sick person, as Mike probably already told you. And what this says in the fine print is, as near as we can tell, the only thing keeping you alive is the realization that your son would inherit the business. And so that whole fear of death is there, and the fear of what should I do? So you procrastinate and you go back and forth. But what I started to say right now, the biggest thing that I see for people of that certain age is the fear of retirement, is a combination of what will I do if I'm not going to the office? What will I do if I give up the most important thing in my life? Of course I love my wife and my children, but this is my other baby. And what do I do if I'm not doing that? Because I am that. And so if it is not part of me anymore, what am I going to do? How will I live? What should I do next? I'm not ready to die. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Figuring that out is the number one thing right now that I see with family business. How do you do that? How do you plan for that? There's a great book called Just Enough. If people don't have that, it's a really good book. I suggest that you may enjoy it. And it's called When is Enough Enough? How do you plan for a retirement? How much do you need? What are you going to do next? It's that, how will I know what to do? So it gets back to the fair treatment of the family members that are inside and outside the business. Not all of your family members are participating in the business. How do you take care of them? And then how do you take care of yourself? And how do you have enough money to live on? How do you take care of those unknown, dare I say, healthcare issues that none of us know what we need? How do you know when you have enough? And how do you know when to make the transition so that you can live your life and have a smooth succession of the family business? I know that one of the things that they had said is to leave some time for questions, so how am I doing on time? Is this right? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, I think the story is familiar. A lot of people have gone through it. Let's say you have the situation, you have the dad, couple sons, mom's over the emotional one. And dad started the business. The kids are now running it. Let's say they all now have a third. Dad wants to keep running it the old way. The kids are saying, Dad, you can't spend money on that. We got to spend money on this. This is the new way of doing it. Dad says, it's my business. I started this. I do what I want. They go to mom. Mom says, everybody get along. Now they pick sides.
Right.
What's your advice, or where do they go? They're in the middle of this right now. Where do they go from there to say, who do we talk to resolve this? Because next thing it gets into legal, we own this amount, that amount, and what do we do? Force him out, force the old man out, and then how does that put us with mom?
That's a great
So
question.
what's the answer to,
Okay.
Where do they go for information or help?
Well, I feel like you just gave me a softball, so I will take it.
I can tell them that it's a softball, but I don't believe that.
No, it isn't. The answer, first of all, where do they go? We formed the Conway over 15 years ago. It started as just called the Family Business Center. It's now called the Conway Center for Family Business. It is for family businesses. And it is a monthly educational program on family business issues. So I would suggest that's the first thing. And I think Dina, who is here, has some copies of what's called a communicator with her. And feel free to pick it up because it gives you information about the Family Business Center. So that's the first thing. Second thing is then I would suggest that those people think about forming what's called a family council, a family business council. And that is a group that gets together, including dad who doesn't want the technology and the siblings who all want difference and mom, and they would meet And remember back on that communication, and you get a educated mediator, somebody can facilitate it, who knows what they're talking about. And there are many people through the Conway, you could find those people, and they would come and help the transition. Because there are solutions. You know, there are ways. We have businesses who have always done hard paper manufacturing. You have to come into the store to buy, and the kids, those whippersnapper 40-year-olds, want to and 50s want to do it on the internet and believe that they could expand the business and do it. And the founders are still saying, hey, we don't need internet. It was good enough before. Have them just come in. You know, so there are ways to work through that. So, thanks. Yes. Oh, hi.
What do we have to learn from overseas? An eye-opener for me was a consulting job in Milan, a family business, and a realization that in that culture, family and business really are between. What do you learn looking outside the U.S.?
I think the first thing we learn is the incredible length of time that some of these family businesses have existed for generations and generations. These are not, oh gee, we're in the 4th generation, we're so excited we made it. They're in the, hi, I'm in the 27th generation and we're still around, right? I mean, I think that's the first thing that you learn, and it's the transition on how you can make that be the most important thing in the person's life. It's the goal is for that family business to succeed, and everybody knows it. And so that whole entitlement issue does not fly as much in some of the overseas ones. I think it's comes out of the United States. We are going to take care of our kids and make sure that we teach them. You know, we'll even go to college and take their exams for them. You know, it's I call them also the helicopter founders, the ones that have given the kids the company, but they never go away. They're still there going, hi, let's talk about what you did yesterday at work. I mean, so you don't see that as much overseas. Yes?
Great outline. Decide your own personality, the Conway Family Council, your outline. What's the best tool you've found over the years to get all the issues resolved quickly? I mean, is it to bring all the players together right at the outset and get everything out in the open, or what is it, B, that you found to be most successful in your practice?
I think the first thing that in my practice that I've seen is I first talk to the founders. Unless there are a 2nd, 3rd generation that's running it. I mean, whoever is that layer that's running the business, you know, what are their goals? That the wants and needs analysis that we do, I suppose that's the first thing. And you get people together, which I've done, and you know, it's a wants and needs analysis that we literally will go through and say to the founder, all right, let me put some things up here as far as what do you want? You want to have money to retire on. You still want to feel you're valued. You want to feel respected. You don't want to feel like the trash that somebody's throwing away. And you want to feel needed. I mean, you go through all the things, and then you go to the next generation. What do you want? They really do want recognition, probably more than anything, recognition that they are running it and they can do a good job. And sure, they want some salary. They want to take care of their parents, or you know, and so you go through all the wants and needs, and then you have an outline of a plan of how can you get that want in line with that want and the 2 needs, and then you actually have a plan. And you fulfill the plan. You have things like requirements for children to come into the business. You have written requirements. You know, sometimes we'll say you have to go away and go to college and then come back. Sometimes it's you have to college or the military and come back. Sometimes people say, no, you can come right from high school and do it, but if you're gonna do that, you have to do this, this, and this. Sometimes people say, you know, go and work at somebody else's place and come back afterwards. And so we'll do that, yes. And I'll stick around also if you have more questions, yeah.
Any guidelines for handling the in-laws?
Yeah, the things that are legal. What I found the most effective is to bring people together and tell them how it is. And I'm, as Michael said, I